My name is Glenn Smith, founder and CEO of Fragile to Agile. The topic for today's video is what is the business capability model? Before I start describing what it is, let me just briefly say that it is the most important artifact in enterprise architecture. Its definition, at least ours, of enterprise architecture is the alignment of business design, people design and technology design. If you're going to align those things, you need a model of the business against which to drive that alignment, and a business capability model is that model. It models what an organization does, deliberately ignoring how it's done, that being the responsibility of business process models, or who does it, that being the responsibility of org structure. Because how something is done changes quite frequently, it certainly should do, as you're going through continuous improvement. And how things are done, who does things changes even more frequently, as we all subject to continuous organizational structure changes. But what an organization does is actually very stable over time. As a consequence of that stability, it enables you to overlay all other aspects of design of the organization, technology design aspects like data architecture and infrastructure architecture, but also business design aspects like business process models and org structure can be overlaid on top of the capability model. And this gives you the stable base against which to overlay all of the other aspects of enterprise design, but also to show how they change over time, because what an organization does is quite stable. You can use that base to show how the technology support for that capability changes over time. Really, to give it that stability, the capability model essentially models the business as a set of independent service providers. It deliberately must include every capability you need in order to be able to deliver your business, and that doesn't matter whether you insource it or outsource it. If you need that capability to deliver the services and products that you require to your customer base, then it must be on your business capability model. Although it's often done, a business capability model within the enterprise architecture field to drive IT alignment and some form of IT transformation program, I want to stress that often actually the best value that you get out of it is because of the deeper insight into the business that it often leads in a pure business design sense. That's a generic description of business capability models, and one that is probably pretty all-pervasive irrespective of who you do them. But at this point we have to slightly say, not all business capability models are created equal. And the approach that Fragile to Agile brings to business capability model leads to the concept of there being 3 levels of business capability model, or 3 views if you prefer to think of it that way. So the first is what we refer to as the executive view. It effectively decomposes the business to just 2 levels. It's not as much rigor as required in the executive business model, because effectively it is a business consulting artifact. It's going to be used to manage up. It's to have conversations your business over, which capabilities should we focus our effort on, because these the capabilities are critical to our competitive advantage, therefore we should be above market. Which capabilities should we invest to drive cost out, because it doesn't really matter if we're below market in them, and all of those sort of strategic consulting questions and role of enterprise architecture. It also enables you to do what's called heat maps and overlay any aspect of your business on top of it, workforce participation, cost, and we probably have about 50 to 100. It varies within different industry segments, heat maps that we can produce that are of interest to the business. It's used to overlay other things like your current solutions on top of them, your operating model, and by that I mean the operating model in the context of enterprise architecture as a strategy. Book from Harvard Press, and overlay the operating model on top of the capability model, and pretty much any other aspect. Finally, the other managing up aspect of the executive level is to influence funding and investment and prioritization decisions. So if you're intending to use a capability model for just those managing up aspects, then frankly, in fact, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter who does the capability model for you. But in Fragile to Agile view, if you use it for that alone, it has an extreme danger of leading to an ivory tower or disconnected architecture. If you're going to use a capability model to drive into actual delivery, you need to go to the next level, which is what Fragile to Agile refers to as an architecture level business capability model. And there's an example of it here, and you can see all it does is take the executive business capability model and drill down into the next level of detail. But critically, because of the level of rigor that Fragile to Agile brings to the development of the executive business capability model, although I must be honest, as we do the next level of detail in the architecture and drill down to levels 3 and 4 of the decomposition, we can often identify small changes in the executive model that once we've done the more rigorous analysis. But ultimately, after you completed both of those steps, critically, the business capability model for the executive managing up and the architecture level, which is used to address deep technology questions like what are the interface points between our solutions, what is exactly the functional footprint of solution A over solution B, what level of overlap do we have between solutions, which capabilities own which data, all of this deep architectural design which is required to design an executable roadmap, and most importantly to ensure as you're doing that high level design that you get some level of accuracy in the development of that transformation program. You need a much more rigor designed to your architecture model. Those two models, in our view, the executive level and the architecture level, should apply to all organizations who wish to drive a transformational program that's executable and well estimated and planned. There's a third level that we do, which is particularly relevant only to organizations that are either adopting business process management or SOA, or lean manufacturing, or in fact if they have the vision of what's referred to as a services-based business, or in some circles as a composable business. Then there's this additional level which we call the BPM SOA level. What it adds is these concept called service containers onto the model, and you can see an example here. They're effectively just red boxes drawn around some capabilities. Now, I'm not going to reveal how we determine these beyond telling you that there's a certain amount of business inputs and a certain amount of technical inputs, because the development of these service containers is critical to Fragile to Agile's intellectual property, and is the thing that adds an awful lot of value, additional value, to the business capability model, which cannot be delivered without actually bringing also the rigor of analysis to the architecture model. But once these service containers are added to the model, they address some very critical design questions for business process management and SOA. For example, what's the right granularity for my services? Where does the boundary lie between business process management and SOA? What are the right process fragments for me to decompose my process into, maximize the level of standardization and reuse of business process fragments and business process design? In lean manufacturing, where are the boundaries of what's called autonomous work units? Et cetera, et cetera. All of these absolutely critical design questions for business process management and SOA are turned from an obscure art form to an engineering discipline with the addition of service containers to the business capability model. So that's a reasonable overview, I hope, of business capability models and what they are. The topic for the next video will be why you need them and why business capability models are so important generally to the design of an organization, but particularly important for the vision for a radically more agile organization of the future. Thanks for listening, and I hope it was of value and help to you.